So as always, we'll begin with the Heart Sutra in English on page 2. Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain, with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the 5 skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of a lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words: "Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The 5 skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teyata, Om Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Ramadan Gampo Jetsun Jampe Yama Chansebo Rangi Lodu Jedi Jende Yan Nanda Ratse Chingi Dungu Jiji Ziji Yingi Toka Levanze Kanda Sibe Sura Mare Buntan Dunya Jizebe Roso Guna Puji Dati Yana Juju Yaneso Chidro Nyamo Nino Legi Chadro Juzeji Mari Musa Dunya Yugu Jiye Juze Rajina Tene Bajin Saju Dasu Yune Vizu Yose Tuwo Chura Chuna Chuni Geji Naru Masa Champe Yamadu Om Arapat Sanadi Seden chini kera bezegi dahe timun abramsel gana tenchu shuru topai rodru kope nama sazu. Continuing with the short mandala offering on page 16. Saji Mukhi Joshi Neto Jam Viram Nagi De Yedadi Sangye Jindu Mite Buai Jogor Namda Jina Chirparsho Jetsun Nama Dapa Kinamgi Choku Kala Kense Juntrine Zutai Sambe Duje Zema Sabi Chigi Cha Abdu Su Yedam Guru Rajanam Continue with the reference on page 22. Sanjay Chodam Suji Chodam Chanju Ardhu Dadi Kepsuchi Dagi Chidye Dide Sonam Chola Meche Sanjay Trupashom Sanjay Chodam Suji Chodam Chanju Ardhu Dadi Kepsuchi Dagi Chidye Dide Sonam Chola Meche Sanjay Trupashom Sanjay Chodam Suji Chodam Chanju Ardhu Dadi Kepsuchi Dagi Chidye Dide Sonam Chola Meche Sanjay Trupashom.
당도 통화들이 아는데 그소리다 최적이 다 총명성을 그소리 들어야 배배하니 최적의 총이다 님바 사와 참모로야 하는 전주 테스트를 해야겠어.
So first of all, I began by greetings for all of you with Tachidele.
네, 기승 다 도발에는 다와 찜새지다 도와 규명적으로 제안이 로티 다대바 치료를 넘게 근데 지금 다도 다 개인보다 먼저 교류지 되어 있으니 드림 신에 다 아주 별거조체 드림 별거조면서 다 두리를 제래 아주 두리지 트레이닝지 로티 근데 제서 그래서 컨트롤하면서 두리 제로 하는데 제 이게 컨트롤 드림지를 담보지 않은 별거조 제마기 사배마들에 진짜 담보도 저희
So it has been almost a month since I've been here. I had discussions with our the previous teacher and what kind of teachings to be given. What is the teachings that actual teachings are appropriate? I had a lengthy discussions with him. And given this is my first time giving the teachings to you all, and I'm, pleased to see you all coming here, taking your time, and coming here to receive the teachings of Dharma. Though I'm not that, qualified to give the heart of teachings of Dharma. So I have also had an opportunity to meet a lot of Tibetans, and we had discussions and what kind of teachings that they desire. And so I will be starting giving the teachings to the Tibetan communities from next week as well. So this is why I'm here, and I will be happy that whatever that I know a little bit about Buddha Dharma, I will be happy to share with you all.
아니, 대학생 중소기의 흉신의 마지막 20개. 아니, 시딩체, 제주체, 아니, 로저 책임을 대송담지 아니, 나라야 되지나네. 지시에 숨어야 돼. 아니, 이게, 로저 책임을 담아 있을 때, 담아야 준세 가르스나. 아니, 시딩당, 준중대 고지 조사서 말봐. 아니, 대조는 무슨 데 아니, 시오지 고대 그러봐. 시오지 고대는 로저 책임을 배 탑을 하려서 했어. 로저 책임을 내는 세상, 로저 책임을 내면서 눈다 가시지나 차도 그러봐. 아니, 로저 책임을 파사서나 아니, 계란도 되고 시송게. 아니, 시딩리나 도구이나, 준중리나 도구이나, 드라이스.
So I have chosen out of 3 subject matter that given me that you are desired to receive the teachings on. The 8 verses of training the mind, and the letter, now returns letter to friend, and that's what the Kaito verse of the Soul of Life, commentary on the Kaito verse of the Soul of Life. The reason I chose this is just wanted to begin with the short teachings, because it takes not more than several, maybe 2 to 3 weeks of teachings. Though the teachings of the 8 verses of training has a profound, vast meaning. The verse itself is quite short, so we can sum up the verses within maybe a couple or several weeks. So that's why I chose this. First, I will feel more convenient and confident by giving the teachings of the 8 verses of training the mind in the beginning.
아니, 전에 달로전 책임한테 마시오나 양난이야 로전 책임 먹으라야 다 지금 계마도 요마르라 이나야 다 딩어라야 아니 이 달마고 만나니 지 시설이야 다 그래서 그랬으나 전혀 지금 고대로야 사진 시와 어디 샤나 그래 아니 최공 공주가 칠 제법의 지원에 맞스 아니 당하는 그거지를 최기 지원에 맞스 어디니 사진이 샤나기도 나저 사진이 샤질이야 아니 동부 최고 공주가 된 며칠이야 아니 제법 아니 도전 책임은 제법 아니 기신 나를 담방에 남다 스나다 중럽스나 더 되지시 대제를 안에 로전 책임을 해야 돼. 기신 나를 담에 간데스 제벌에 간데스 충분히 해야 돼. 더 되지셔야지.
So most of the teachings will be begun with by showing the greatness of the teacher and the greatness of the teaching itself, just as we find in the 4 major outlines in the Lamrim Jamu, or the graduated path to enlightenment. And so it is therefore, I will begin with, first of all, give the brief introduction of the author of this teachings, 8 verses of training of the mind, and then will be followed by the greatness of the teachings will be understood or will be found when we go through the actual teachings of these 8 verses of training the mind. And I will take this time, first of all, to introduce who is the Gishi Kadamba Gishi Langutamba, who composed these teachings or the 8 verses of training the mind.
아니 이 사제들도 다 여기 모태한테 추공주만 때문에 제법의 체원된마다 나가는 그거 집에서 추진된 체원된 거 써야 돼. 나도 다 채워놔야 지 가서 그래. 배정 만천이 지리고 내야기 흉지 대대지 차다 열을 로스 대대 차다 열을 말하자면 이 소변 나야 돼. 쉬우지 가서 그래. 배정 단계 열에서 빼는 나라 속에 순간에 잘라진 요발도 듣는 거야 아니. 다 잘라내 알레 도 소라 간에 된도 소라 야바지래도 민이 외제래도 된다기로 와. 안 대다 사례지가 다 잘라고랑 간데래도 공도 야바들래도 정화들래도 탑자들래도 지금 잘라고랑 담보 잘라내 간에 된도 다 잘라고랑 공도를 가려도 다기로 와. 대담아서 나는 아주 배제들래야 이지 야보든 이거나 배제들 세계도 쓰려도 등대도 쓰려도 대파야 보시다. 아니 대제라야 하는 배제고랑은 남도 가려도 좋아. 대나라야 남도 가는 냠래지야 가려도 말은 펜바 가려도 대지미 지다기로 어디 일이 나서 어떤 남주 대로도 이날에 대로도 쓸 정도 아니 대대 남도 가려도 어디 따기로 어디 나서 배 성물로 시험해야 됐어.
So, in order to understand the validity or the authenticity of the teachings, we must first of all understand and to know who is the individual who gave these teachings, who composed these teachings, such as 8 verses of training the mind, and so forth. And then we will go through the actual teaching itself. By going through the teaching itself, one will have a great devotion to the teachings. If one is able to go through the entire meaning, not only just reading the verse itself, but to be able to reflect one's mind upon the meaning of the teachings and so forth, will then be able to generate great devotions to the teachings as well as the author himself. Just as when we buy things from store, and we will first of all, where this object that I'm buying is from, where this is made out of, what is the quality, what kind of quality of the particular object that I'm buying, and who made it, and what kind of company that has made it. And this is how we go through. Always we are always curious to know before we buy things. Similarly, before we go through the teachings, we have to understand who this teacher is. What is his reputation? What kind of teaching that he has given in the previous, given in his lifetime, and so forth. And by understanding, although it is not easy for us to be able to understand the qualities of the teachings, we should at least have some understanding of the qualities of the teacher or the author, and also the teachings that are given by this particular teachings. This is very important.
네, 다 계제 방방하게 지 중세 중유도다 안에 지 공로 중주 가르나에 밑에서 시대위나네 저주 가로에서마다 시라요 말씀.
So I will not go through the detailed background of Krishna Dhamma, where he was born, what he has done when he was younger, but it's just a waste of time, so I'm not going to go through that.
지다 계시랑다마다 나 rumba지 그랬어.
Kishlani Dhamma was the place where I was born actually. We were from the same hometown.
이 베징의 rumba니 나 기세로 보더니 계시랑다마에 rumba서 공부했잖아. 추즈직도 제가 되지.
It takes only an hour and a half from my birthplace to the Kishlani Dhamma's birthplace.
아니
By foot, too.
계시랑다마에 디 공부데 다디 니마 링네 사지부데 냠차 만들어지네 디 또래 말하지 니마 링보다 하나 타대 그래서 기존한 건 앞에 공부데
The good thing about the monastery built by Geshe Langtangpa in that particular place is still intact. It is not destroyed during the Cultural Revolution, or somehow it was able to survive and never been destroyed. But it is still as it is.
나중에 다 옛날 차시하면 지 나중 공부 참여 중 당에 공부 들어가서 배드마 또 내는 영자로 와 기시랑 공부 공부된 영자만 들어가 가르치는 다 그랬으나 공부되는 조직서 제도 조시하사 어디는 아니 다 되었어.
The reason why Geshe Langtangpa's the monastery was not destroyed is because during the Cultural Revolution, the Geshe Langtangpa's monastery was used as a storage of different kind of grains and stuff. So therefore, those the Chinese soldiers thought that this did not know that it's a monastery that is to be destroyed. But all other monasteries in their surroundings, there are big monasteries, small monasteries, all completely flattened, completely, destroyed, reduced to the ground.
아니 나란 천재 당보대 조사대 배지 기실랑 담배 공부다 다 구당보 제야지요. 어디 기실랑도 담배 구라니 있어.
In my life, the first time that I remember I visited the monastery is Geshe Langtangpa's monastery. And the Buddhist statue that I have viewed and I have seen is at the Geshe Langtangpa monastery when I was very, very young. That was my first time having an opportunity to see the Buddha's image as well as the monastery.
아니 공기 채워 뛰어버리는 집에 있는 따뜻한 공원에 나가서 이제 진입을 제 아니 다 자가나야 티징이 때문에 공부를 누르다 아니 파고 통행이야 티징이 때문에 야마야 세워지네 아니 다 모든 동의를 봐 소원량을 지게 될래야 같이 준규수체 아니 배등문도 그래 봐 아니 모든 동의를 봐 소원량을 지게 될래야 같이 가서 삼모다 주지 배등문도 그래 봐 소원량을 지게 될래야 같이 준규수체네 기본 일이 전에 말려라 이 기본이 말려면 되는 말이야 아니 기본이보다 가는 수준이 그래서나 조직반대 아디시하게 감네 아니 대기본이 조직반대 아디시하게 대기본이 되게 당한 수준이 아니 뭐든 돈이 뭐 대마 당한테 가는 수준이 아마 아니 가자대 가자 데이터 우선이 총 우선이 좀 나마 아워도 되거든요 우선이 총안에 마슈 아니 배경문도 그런 거에 관해서 그래서나 아니 아마 실링배 군들의 마시 조직반에 아디샤리아 되게 자주 쓴다 아무도 돈이 다 당한테 니가 조직을나 조직 별로 배워라 대체 아니 조직 별로 배네 아니 조직이 거기 로면서 좀 거나 아니 겨워 좀더 거기 로면서 보디 가르스나 디시보도 마지 아니 기시 보도밖에 뭐마데 조데 가르레스나 아니 기시 샤라와다 기시 랑당 바스네 나나랑 솔로제 쓰지면 되게 어제 아니 기시 다 기시 보도와데 조진반데 아디시아게 아니 당한 무슨 답보자게 저걸 좀 내중내게 물로 기시 보도와 콩라야 두제 아니 가서 그래. 자진 주의나 사무다주를 남만한 그 기획이 라브레게 당한 탐지 권을 나열했어. 콘텐츠 전주승에 당하시 대대체네 아니 까담에 기회신이 첨부를 주로 아니 다 잘못되지 그래서
As you all are familiar with, Yes, we have been receiving the teachings of Dharma for many, many years. So when we talk about actual teachings of the Dharma, the teachings of the Dharma can be classified into two different camps or two different classes. The profound view, the teachings of the profound view, the teachings of the Vedas, or conducts. And in India, after the degeneration of these teachings of Mahayana, after Buddha's parinirvana, it has gone through, certain destructions of the declinations. However, during the Nagarjuna and Asanga's time, they actually revitalized and they become a tabulator for reestablishing the teachings of Mahayana in India. Both the teachings of profound view and extensive deeds. And all of these teachings are embodied by the great Indian master. Both profound view, the teachings of the profound view, and extensive deeds are embodied by the great Indian masters. What probably we all are familiar with this, the story of the great master Atisha Devambar Shirijana. And he himself has received all his teachings of profound view, of emptiness, from his teacher by the name of Avadhoti, and the teachings of extensive deeds, the stages of the path of extensive deeds have received from Lama Tsarnapa, great master Lama Tsarnapa. So it is therefore Adisha Tirumkara Shirijana embodies entire teachings of the Buddha, including lower vehicle, higher vehicle, tantrics, and so on and so forth. And as Adisha was invited to Tibet, and his main disciple, his heart disciple, Adisha's heart disciple, was Trungpa Devi Juni, or Trungpa. He's an Tibetan student, his first Tibetan student, or the heart, or the principal student, or the disciple of Adisha. So then Adisha, then Trungpa's disciple, the direct disciple or the main disciple was Bodhava. And Sharawa and Lamridhamba are the student of the Bodhava. So in this, one could say that Tishilatamba is a custodian of keeping the Kadamba tradition. And he has received all his Kadamba teachings, and he became a custodian or the keeper or holder of Kadamba teachings. In other words, the teachings of the both profound view as well as extensive deeds.
공기 기시 보도국의 군전에 전주 남기를 멋지당 아니 또는 나는 다 야간나야 이 가서 다른 종교들의 배자들의 시라 등의 말이 있느냐 답변은 차시하는 주중나라 이게 다시 양지기 아니 담바데 그들 라마도 속에 수수료 로마 문제 참에 양년 치투게트 저런 것도 저기 첨지어지네 막 상물로 만만해야 되는데 아니 기시 보도하게 아니 관계로 막 기시 샤라보다 기시 강탐번이나 막 나와랬어 다시 명직이 전주선에 당하네 로종세
So at that time, the teachings will not be given to anyone whenever who requests it. And it is teachings will be given only the selected disciples, because those great teachers, masters such as Buddha and so on, they know that who can be the suitable disciples, who can be the suitable vessel to receive particular teachings. So it is therefore, Teacher Buddha has given these teachings of stages of the path to enlightenment in general to all of those two disciples, Sharawa and Langtamba. And then along with that, Teacher Buddha has given the very important fifth instructions on the practice of exchanging self with others. And this teachings is not really given to public, in general public, especially the exchanging self with others, equalizing and exchanging self with others. It's not given to the general public. It is given only to the selective disciples who are said to be as suitable disciples to receive those particular instructions.
아니 공 기시 보도가 신경만 실사고 로준이 기시 보도가 근데는 쇼 기시 보도가 신경이 아니 기시 보도가 대해서 다가나는 쇼면서 말이야 다들 맞은 중수를 차린다 공기 떨만나사기 떨듯이와 대 아니 자보로지기 신이 한다네 랑탕 유사게 고바 유사게 사자들이야 보러 대유 그래서 콘데 링가도 대도도 좀 말이야 안디기 탕디 더 루틴이 아니 고마야 대로 고바되도 쓰네 대려야 탕들을 쉬로 쓰네 대는데 콘데를 쉬 아니 다다게 예연의 왜 아니 매변적으로도 소리 고마야 다대로 고바지 되로지 아니 나중에 튕기장이 있으니 어디래야 내 랑탕이 있어 고바에서 대로 콘데 쉬어야 되고 되는 제레스
So Geshe-la Tamba spent 12 plus years with his teacher Potowa, receiving all his instructions, the fifth instructions. The instruction we talked about earlier, the profound view and extensive deeds. After 12 years, after the passing away of Geshe Potowa, Geshe-la Tamba still, lived in the monastery of Geshe Potowa. And all of those practitioners in Tibet as well as in India now, they have the retreaters who are in the retreats, they have certain ritual practices of giving a dharma. It's like pills. The dose will be, it's called dharma offering, what we call dharma offering to the Buddhas, as well as then the different stages that were put to the Dharma palace, as well as Nagas, and particularly this dharma offering is designed towards the hungry ghosts and formless beings who are around, who are in our surroundings. And when he was doing that, and after the completion of the rituals, and this dharma will be taken outside and lived in such a particular place, in a very clean place. But then the story goes that a very strange raven, the bird, it just came and took the Thomas and flew to a place where the Gichilangtamba's present monasteries. And that's called Langtangpa. It's the place, name of the place. And then from there, it is the story goes that the Lord of Nagas were there and residing in that particular place. And physically, actually, requested Gichilangtamba to be there to build a monastery. So he then went to that place, and then also there are some village around that particular place, and then he also got a request from all the villagers as well to build a monastery over there, and then he accepted and built a monastery place called Langtang.
공기 이 공변나는 쇼데도 공기 chanchusem 공들이야 지금 심지를 민주 공부에 되게 투려된지 안에 공부에 링이 나라야 심지지게 지금 채워주는 매워제 드레스 되게 요랬어 아니 차게 지우사게 요와 아니 콩 슈벨 나라야 링이 나라야 차다 지우도 제모제 드레스 내용도 심지지게 지라야 지금 채워주는 매워 링이 나라 심지지게 지금 살해주는 매워 신장체 되게 요랬어 공기 chanchusem 공부에 도기
During his time in that particular monastery, it is due to his practice of bodhicitta. His main practice was just bodhicitta. Always, it is to say that he has never wandered his mind, even a fraction of not being, practicing bodhicitta. It is due to this power of his practice of bodhicitta. Even the animals in their surroundings, there are many wild animals came to that place at the monastery and the courtyards. They coexist harmoniously, amazingly, without harming each other, very peacefully. And also it is said that people who are living in that area will also become very harmonious and coexisted and without harming each other.
아니 공기 로전 생기면 잠에 맞에 코란이 냠신나지 균도는 냠신나지래야 되게 중요한 말이야 이마치 코 아니 지금 로마만 보러도서만 최선배 가라 다 공기를 알아봐 로마만 보러만 최선배 가라 아니 지다 개민지 부부충중지 개용제 콩도서 쇼디가는 쇼데서 방에나는 육제래야 계란도 부분에 답보자도 서말에 서도서 말에 계란도 쓰셨으면 되려고 좀 말이야 공기 그래서 시행이 넘겨지지 말로 전에 라스로스네 부분이 야스 쇼디가는 야 코란이 이거 하셔야겠는데 답보자 양지를 개민디게 답본다면 넣으셨으니 계란은 이제 도저히 넣으셔 못하시는 양공기 라스로스네 파티오는 거지 그 부분이 utilize 말이야 지 가서 시행이 넘겨져야 마주 같은 적이 저분한테 열었어. 양씨.
So this Gichilangtamba is known for a great practitioner of mind training. So he's, as we mentioned earlier, that his main practice bodhicitta is all about training our mind, isn't it? So it is said that one time at his monastery, when he was giving teachings to his disciples, there are a number of disciples in his monastery, and giving his teachings, teachings to his disciples. And suddenly that woman came with a little child, holding a little child and coming there to claiming that child is Gichilangtamba, this is your child, you take care of it. And without even having giving a one word of saying this is not my child, he accepted. Just leave it here, leave him or her here. Don't with me, I'll be fine. I'll take care of it. But later on, the woman came and I'm sorry, it's not yours, but I just came here for some reason. And I have to say that. And again said, if you want to take it, I can take it. No problem. If you want to live with me, I can take care of the kids. without saying any other words. This is how his mind was trained. So for us, if something happens like that, not only that, even the one word, how blood pressure will go all the way up and then become a completely different person, right?
아니 다들 지금 그러시라 보세요. 기실만도 보고 따바라시 시레나고 전에 베지 슈리고마도 베지 나존나지 가가로로 전 개목에 들이 나야 되는 자원이 요말했어. 아니 공기 로마도 속에 안에 지라 지금 미친 거라고 들이 도저히 시레도 장서 된지 아니 시무시 레브시에나 야보 유사를 쓰지 좀 말아 공기 제다치라서 다가라 그랬어. 이내야 선지게 동네는 지금 따위나 개먼지다 주는 쇼도야 면도스 디레슨 그랬어. 기실만도 보고 다 가서래 다 자주 생겨 당하니 야 투수 취내 제제 아니 공기 다 군양에 만들어서 시험 팅승 마도 쇼뇨메스 디레스.
So Geshe Langtamba is also known for not laughing or smiling much. Rather, he always maintained this somber demeanor at all times. And he never known to laugh or smile much. And sometimes some of his disciples would request him, just give us a little bit smile. But his answer was that if you really deepen your mind insight into the nature of the cyclic existence, there's no room for us to laugh. There's no room for us to smile. It is the intense suffering that sentient beings are undergoing will not make us laugh at all. So, according to the Geshe Langtamba's biography, says in his entire lifetime, he has laughed only 3 times. Only 3 times.
아니 다 시무승인데 당고대 다 중견자다. 저도 저러지 그래. 공기 대래天气空都是他工作休息的怎么嘞？아니空对了面对意思嘞，面对干了呀，他们做的这也面对主要是中间对那个有的，他就忙不路吧，去了的嘞。那今天路下就是自己用着了呀，有情况就在那开着了去了是自己的，可开着了去了，可天完全呢，可养牛盘路着呢，自己个我看些这个呢，你。有的自己的蛮也可碰过嘛下，自己现在都是可刚刚说掉了，那都是可碰过嘛家头的事。这个关系我就说的是。
The first time he actually laughed or smiled was there were a mouse just came and steal his tortoise. It's a tortoise in his mandala offerings. There's a tortoise in mandala offerings. The mouse was actually taking away that. And some tortoise must be a little bit big or it's maybe heavy. So mouse couldn't carry it. And mouse was actually going back to their nest and bringing some companies so that they all of them can just take away this. And that makes them laugh a lot. Yeah, this is first time he laughed.
테마지 양 다 들어지 콩다 자주스는 또 봐 양모도 빼야 유유자니 사통불에 필요자니 문제들이 도반에 있어요. 아니 지 미직 도반 내고는 그래지 지 작업으로 전당한 작업도 원래 도숨 작업으로 와. 그 도대 세면 도대체 도신나서 세원에 또 된대게 있어서 타고 도대天的国际经济是吧 도대 배대 원로 파봉 쉬우체는 배대 원로 배대 배 파봉 친구 이거 계시 langtam바 그 투기经济是吧 타고 도대 충중되는 원래 되는 도 원고 도 친구들 텐도야 계시 langtam바 대신 저 쉬었어
So, and second love that he had in his life was that one of the Tibetan merchant was, on his way back to his home. He's a merchant, so he just went to get some merchandise from a different place, and on his way back, and he found a stone that is a little covered by the dust, and it's rather quite a unique stone, so he wanted to pick that up, and he just tried to move, but Gislandamba has a, clairvoyance. He knew that it is all the way down, it's so deeply rooted, and it's not easy to pick up. And then he was trying and would put all his effort and taking his time to get a stone out of it, but he couldn't at all. But he knew that it's too deep, he can't do it. And by watching at him, and then that made him laugh. This is his second laugh. Second time of laughing, in other words.
지 대체에서다 내고를 두게 되거든지 아니 다뭐 되는 거 나와도 처음에 있어라 산이 쇼에 야라양 처음에 있어라 이나고 산이 지는 내고를 두는 있어 다들 별로 한 것도 수수성으로 그 한국의 TV 쇼 전에 동 갈래자는 많이 했지 좀 내기여서도 아니 그 산이 쇼에 다 처음에 와다 기질랑다 베킹이요 콜라야 양 기질랑다 시험을 지셔서
And then there's another person who was actually preparing his shoes, because in Tibet those days the shoes will be made by ourselves. Nowhere else, so we don't go to this. There's no store where you can buy his shoes. He was actually preparing his shoes and making a very lasting sole, because he is planning to go many different places. In other words, in fact, he's planning to go for pilgrim. And Gishi Naratamba, through his clairvoyance, he actually saw that his lifespan is only a night, that he will not be waking up tomorrow morning. So then he was still making, almost entire night he has been, preparing his shoes, and particularly, making sure that he has a very thick and comfortable sole, so that he can, walk many years. So then that again made him smile a little bit. This is third time smiling in his life.
아니 다 공부하는 다 가려고야 다 공부하는 다 그렇지 말이야 아니 공부로만 해서야 블루투스로야 아니 다 최고냐고 선불들이 최고 전부 상식었어 아니 나그 심지 탐색이 되는 동안 여행하는 줘야 얼마나 잡이인데 다들 용병들한테 줘서 말이야 나베니 지금 답의 신경을 줘야 하겠는데 레이아가 나와자냐 샤기도 아니 만여변은 누구 있어 말이야 제가 나야 용병은 자료자는 심지 탐색이 되는 동안 여행은 줘서 얼마나 잡이인데
So at the time of his death, just before his passing away to Nirvana, he told his disciples that my main objective of my entire practice is to serve sentient beings. And I still pray and hope that I will take a rebirth in a hell realm so that I can serve all those hell beings, humans and humans. And this is the courage that I have. But it seems the visions and appearance that I have at this point is that I keep having the vision of this Pure Land. And this is not my wish. My wish is to, stay in a hell realm, he says that the lower realms, and particularly hell realms, humans and humans. And this is my objective for my practice for bodhicitta.
我听的是什么了呀？我那谈的讲就是罗江北一边呢，安尼可是不嘞，罗要不是江特别一边呢，安尼他叔叔嘞，电竞电话这个是呀，特别有的，伊那样他哪样做的，来他们他他妈这个什么，安尼可是不嘞，变得才小人了，他三级的，杨他个做的三级年马送的给微信的他。 지금 답변신가라 패키지로다 나름도 재미있는 아주 수수도 뒤지게 된다라 약간의 작업 잔잔냠냠 코나 몇 가지 가서 작업을 하신 아주 깔래 다가라 잡셔라 수수 체람네 체람배 수수 대화대 기본 요약의 체람배 나저 깔래 두 마치 잡여졌어.
So if we really look at ourselves, the way, the efforts and hardship that we have undergone are pretty similar hardships and effort that we put forth is pretty similar to the hardships and efforts undertaken by the great beings, but the result is different. Their hardships and their efforts enables them to attain, lasting happiness, everlasting happiness. Whereas us, regardless of how much efforts and hardships that we may have done, we have not been able to achieve what we long to achieve.
이나야가 나라 속에 깔래 자다면 노르네. 그래서 그래다 나라 속에 노르네 깔래 자다는데 노르 양타고 속에 산재군은 깔래 자다는데 뒤버서 파는 거 뭐네 땡기 되고 두투여 요래 나라 속에 노르자 다 전에 땡기 되면 파샤네 세타르게 뒤지데 다다지 두투여 말았어.
So our hardships and efforts there's something wrong with that, right? Regardless of how much efforts and hardship that we may have put forth in the past. Let alone that we achieved, this hardship will result to everlasting happiness. We can't even find a temporary, genuine happiness, in this lifetime, temporary happiness.
어디에 순간에 산지기 다가서에 최근하려야다 만들어 만들던 나이에 좀을래야 다 지난주 아니 다 대깔래자던데 노샤 지난주 랑진진치던데 노샤 랑진진나 신진진이 제발로 그것도 지난주 유를 요약이 아니 단지 말이 배주배 되자시 단 띵무에서 아니 지난주라야 동해대계에 자태서 밥빵 그것도 아니 계란줄라야 잔주베스나 동만이 있다고 해서 계란줄라 디지털에 대수출 공부도 쓰는 대대스만 다가서 그래. 가로도 무슨 나나야레스.
So therefore, Buddha has given us these teachings. Up until now, that regardless of how much efforts and hardships that you may have put forth, you have not been able to attain, lasting happiness. Not even a temporary happiness, the genuine temporary happiness haven't been able to accomplish. Why that happened was because our hardships and efforts are all based on self-cherishing mind. It is derived from self-cherishing mind and self-grasping. So now we need to reverse this self-cherishing instead of cherishing, instead of embracing this self-cherishing mind. We should get rid of this self-cherishing mind and cultivate the cherishing for the welfare of other sentient beings and try to set aside our preconceptions so that one will be able to understand how things really are, will then be able to make our efforts and hardships meaningful and purposeful.
지금 이제 그제
Come from Shanti.
Come from Shanti.
Jesus, not
아니 어디에 son다 단대디 공부되다 계신 망담하기 되는 어디에 지체 아니 최기 제와다 최워서 좀 말해 아니 계신 망담하기 로좀 책임하네 아니 개체도 간대지 아니 네 간대스 유용을 양다고 좀 산진네 제네 계신 망담과 코랑이랑 수체 상교래 야면에 있는 마 공유교래 좋아 아니 네 냠래체는 팬도 가려요래 어디 다 최기 제와시비 어디만 시에보고요래 어디만 시에보고도 말이야 다들 양게 다 중국 탐지 강제를 독습을 하신 아니 지 나도 넘버 산지비 최고고 가리나 야도가 좀 산지를 야투고 요래서 대내만도 대시하고 요래서
So with this, we have gone through a brief discussions on the author of this text. In other words, we talked about, which then enables us to understand the greatness of this author, that enables us to understand by going through the background, the brief background of Geshe Lao Tangpa, who he was, what he has done, what kind of practice he did, that enables us to generate and to understand the greatness of this author of 8 Virtues of Training the Mind. And then when it comes to the greatness, understanding of the greatness of the teaching itself, and the teaching, the particular teaching that we will be discussing is 8 Virtues of Training the Mind. Is this 8 Virtues of Training the Mind? It is just only by it has any source or what is in other words, what is the source of this great 8 Virtues of Training the Mind? Is that if you were to trace the source, it is traceable all the way to the teachings of the Buddha himself, the Buddha Dharma. So just as we have a saying that the water, the clean water should be traceable to the snow mountains. Similarly, the teachings of the Buddha, regardless of what kind of teachings, who has given these teachings, should be traceable to the teachings of the Buddha himself.
어디에서도 안에 다자도 마셔야 두고기 안에 초보 당부도 원하는서 대바시 주고도 아니 다분도 정말로 개발도 통이 요래다 아니 대시 대바시 마선도 말이야 당부 모터체네 아니 디데질이야 동네 대바스게리 디데질로 군중 대바스게리 디데질로 고베 대바스게리 디데질로 남지 대바스게리스 대바시 모터체체 대질이야 아니 동네 대바스야 돼 아니 하고를 스스로 약간이 가르친 거니 하고 그거 요래 나서 담아서나 나서 하고 그거 요래스 아니 대 동네 대마면은 대기 동네 대마 강내 중에 야요야기 교 군중 대마대 내워서 그거 요래 호반 내워서 그거 요래스 아니 군중 대마 내워서 왜데 내워서야 요래스는 요래스 군중 대마 내박이 군중 대마 빵박이 빵박 고배 대마서야 토야 요래스 고배 대마서야 돼 토야 요바데 경쟁 가르레스나 군중 대마 내워서 거기 아니 시바 남지 대마서게 요래스 남지 대마라 때네 군중 대마 내워서 왜이나 동해 매워 자그래 동해 매워 자스나 아니 고배 대마 도그래스 어디는지
So this is how this, if you look at this teachings of the Virtues of the Training the Mind, is directly linked to the teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, the teachings of the Four Noble Truths are completely encapsulated within this 4 and 8 verses of training the mind. As I understand that many of you actually received the teachings of Dharma for a very long time, and Four Noble Truth is not something that is new to all of you. However, it's as a tradition. Let me, take this opportunity to, as a purpose, as precious purpose. Let me take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the Four Noble Truths given by the Buddha, teachings that given by the Buddha after his enlightenment. Right. So after Buddha's enlightenment, when he gave the teachings, in a common sense, or in a common appearance, the Four Noble Truths is his first teachings after his enlightenment, given to his 5 main disciples, first main disciples, in other words. And for that, first he introduced what are Four Noble Truths. For that, the truth of suffering, truth of origin of suffering, truth of cessation, and the truth of path that leads to the cessation. This is the introduction of the Four Noble Truths given by the Buddha to his 5 disciples. After that, following this, his introduction of Four Noble Truths, he then said, first, one must understand the suffering, the nature of suffering. And having understood suffering, one must understand the origin of suffering. And when we come to understand the origin of the sufferings, one should understand the cessation from sufferings. And when you come to understand there's a possibility of ceasing those sufferings, and one should understand by what means that cease the sufferings, which is the path leading to cessation and so forth. So this is how the teachings of the 8 verses of training the mind will be talking about. If we do not long to undergo suffering, how do we stop? What kind of thought processes that we must adopt? What kind of preconception that we may have must be abandoned, and so forth. We'll be teaching in this very short verses. It's only 8 verses, which actually carries a deep and very vast meaning of the teachings of the Dhamma.
Pena 마란조 지금 민간을 루고다지를 지가 들어가는 배차를 단단히 걸어봐. 아니 양타와 조배 산얘기 동네에 켜내 매봐서도 매봐세 켜내봐 잡았다는 매비나 산얘기 동네 시험을 자 숨고 야거나 영어를 동네 시험 편도 영어가 샘되나 말이지. pena mengano rewina chi sobola ya naza tabaji chi powe na mengano rewina naza de chi takasa cheda mebe naza rawodi de yisuna ane membage besha girwa ta kya pe ya bodu sega chene pa besha ne koshi marwa ta naza cheda yobare ji yimina ane amji gira girwa ta kya naza de de du ke yamena me sabu yamena chi shajo chene ko naza de de du la girwa tenashi 말아서 동네들만 매웠어요. 여자는 산적이 올라 지라나야 동네들 봐서 되지 요래 된 것이 뭐 그래. 암직이 나서 뭐를 제반하시. 다 산적이 암직이 다 나서지 제도 매사고도 야면은 샤저 땅고도 숨만하시 산적이 아니 이 동네들만 매웠어요라 하는 군중들만 매웠어. 군중들만 매웠어야게 탑시 아니 사모디데 땅고 요래 대치고 요래 마스한게 마스우야데 아니 수수님네 제비나 아니 내시야 제도 맨데만 하지 안동에데 법방도 그랬어.
So if the reason why Buddha has his first teachings of the Four Noble Truths, when he introduced the Four Noble Truths, he emphasizes on the importance of understanding or identifying the suffering, the truth of suffering. he's not actually, giving us instructions of being hopeless or by understanding the sufferings. He's not talking about the suffering, something that cannot be overcome. We cannot, not just suppressing, but we will not be able to uproot those sufferings. That's not what he's talking about. The reason why he introduced the suffering right from the beginning is suffering is temporary. If one put in effort, really, take a journey, or may not the right journey, one will be able to uproot those sufferings. And in order to overcome the sufferings, it is therefore one must first identify the sufferings. Having identified the suffering, then one must understand the cause of sufferings. What causes the sufferings? And without identification of the cause, we were just simply focusing on the suffering alone will not help us to uproot the sufferings. So therefore, Buddha then gave the teachings of the cessation of the cause of the sufferings, the origin of sufferings. Therefore, he said, suffering must be understood. Cause of the suffering must be eliminated. The cessation must be actualized, and the path must be relied upon to overcome the sufferings, to attain cessations.
제사들의 인도다 말이야. 아니, 파기 대바시 있는 샤승배 같은 데라야. 아니, 산적이 지 동해 대바세야 될 간데이마다. 아니, 군중대 막 빵세야 군중배 대바되나. 아니, 남제 대바다. 아니, 고배 대바도 봐. 맹점에 나가서 럽지 마숨샤레스. 아니 대신 팀진바디 동해대 막 간데서 빵 이면다 동해대 가서 군중대 마셔야 돼 군중 주고조사 군중대 마셔야 돼 간데지 이면나 아니 남제대 마셔야 돼 간데 이면 팀진바디 안까 봐봐 아니 팀님이 되고 아니 저거 분들을 거도 아니 어디 다남 가서 그래 동해대 마봐야 남 내셔야 되다 아니 군중대 마셔야 돼 간데지를 쓰기 이면데 아니 So,
in his first teachings of the Dharma, the Four Noble Truths, he introduced Four Noble Truths and advising his disciples to identify those Four Noble Truths individually. And then when it comes to actual application of antidotes, the teachings of actual application of antidotes, the teachings is given during his second teachings of the Dharma, which is in Vulture Speak for the Rajgir, where he gave the teachings of the Prajnaparamita. And there he gave a detailed explanation of how do we cultivate the path that leads to the cessation. But what kind of path that we are talking about? How do we really apply a direct antidote towards the cause of the suffering, which is referring to our ignorance and delusions? And this detailed teachings is given during his second teachings of the Dharma in Vulture Peak, or at Rajgir in India.
아니, 다 대지들이야 아니야. 다 쳐버리고 니 고제 대나야 산지 전쟁에 감만 보면 지금 저래 레만 보면 까제 상주 대나야 아니 도리요도 아니야. 이제 찬주스마도 소리야. 도리시 상주 대나야 아니야 막 되게 렌즈 샤바데야 까타마데스 까타마레바나 바치레시 코스.
So then this will then be followed by his third teachings of the Dharma, which is mostly answering to the questions of those bodhisattvas.
아니 산지에게 최대지 숨샤고 탐제로 로종 경향에서 로장야 셈장야 경향에서 배는 산지에게 너무 대시 주변에 막 숨요양 대도 정말 이중의 삼보금이야 그봐 믿어 보금이야 믿어 보금이야 다음에 보금이야 대장 정말 셈나 소주다야 말도 저기 되게 속은 남주다 그래 지금 말했어.
So, if you look at all the teachings of the Buddha, the first teachings of the Dharma, second turning of the world Dharma, and third turning of the world Dharma, we are not able to find even one word of the Buddha's teaching that doesn't become a teaching through the training of mind. The training the mind is the teaching of Buddha, all about the teachings of the Buddha, all about the Dharma. So, if you look at his first teachings of the Dharma, and he teaches the importance of practicing renunciation, that is directly linked to training our mind. How do we cultivate renunciations? Without training our mind, it is not possible for us to, realize or to generate these renunciations. Then he talked about importance of reflecting one's mind on impermanent nature of things and impermanent or the transient nature of things. That too requires that training our mind. It is actually directly linked to the training of our mind, and then self-realization, meditation on self-realization, and all of this are to transform our mind. The practice of the teachings of Dharma is to transforming our mind, changing our mind, shaping our mind. To shape our mind requires training. So therefore, there's no such teachings that cannot become a training of mind.
뭐 디데스가 아니 이나야 다 나가서 로종 세야 돼. 다가봐서 스님이 저번에 댄샤베 찬추 쓰는 정도 답에 티 마비나게 이보다 다시 염진 게 아니 담바데 아니 다 계세지 뭐 시원하게 준주래 어디서 만 제제라야 안테네 마로마 진데 지금 막 유용되더라 다시 염지기 명아디 마 유용네 아니 될라야 아니 로종선에 미싱 민다베스 셈장야게 좀 말씀드리면 미싱 민다베스 다 되나야 로종 되도마 로종 이메웨스 로종 선자고로 아니 로종 책임을 이래서 나가서 다 주무지야 돼 로종 책임을 했어 시야 돼 아니 지난 로종도 좀 나서기 지난다 심지분 양년치야다 배가래 하고 이랬어 봐 양디 로종에 담지도 셈도즈 마찬가지로 카톡도 좀 양년치야 배가래 하고 이러도 이나야 저수지 수술 로종제 제샤비나 아니 수술 강의를 제대로 좀 알아야 셈다 강의를 제대로 성공 당당 아니 양지 미지 용다라고 보세요 성공 당당 아니 수술이야 동해 용도의 양지 왜 가르쳐지 중이나 되나라야 왜 셈을 해도 보시지 그랬어 간단하다
So the essence of the teachings of the mind training or the lojong is the practice of equalizing and exchanging self with others. That's the essence of all these teachings. And when it comes to the teachings, the essence of the teachings of bodhicitta, particularly the practice of equalizing and self, exchanging self with others, is teachings given by the detailed teachings given by the Shantideva in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And this, based on these teachings, then we find all those teachings of mind training of Kadamba tradition. There are many, many teachings of the mind trainings, the verses of mind trainings. Let's take count a few of them here. although there are many, but the most well-known and important texts that we are familiar with are the 7-point mind trainings. The mind trainings of the rays of suns, and mind trainings of the will of weapons, and mind trainings of the 8 verses of the training of the minds. Those are the mind training texts that we all are familiar with. So when we look at these teachings, such as the teachings of 8 verses of training the mind, when we read through these teachings on the surface, it is not that easy to practice, isn't it? It always tells us something that is opposite what we are doing. It contradicts our day-to-day life. And how can we practice this? It looks very, very difficult. But then, if you really practice, from the depth of one's heart, when we come across with difficulties and mental vicissitudes, this is the medicine. This is the teaching that really help us strengthen our motivations and help us to really to become courageous and continue to practice and bringing about change in our mind.
그래서 안에 진대선들도 말해야 당연히 지만 내지지 아니 로전 세계마다 만년도 교주체 아니 다 드림네 모델에 제인데 모델이냐 지 도도도도를 자스스와 인천함도 되나냐 양지 도대적으로 되는 나로지스.
Although this should be the brief introduction of Geshe-la Tamba and his teachings, it's become a little lengthy. I try to, shorten the stories, but it's become lengthy, and so we're almost run out of time. And we will actually go through the discussions on the actual teachings of the first 8 verses of training the mind from next week. And we have left 5 or 10 minutes, and if you have some questions out there, some questions.
Well, just curious, okay, so he was born an hour and a half from the birthplace of Geshe-la, right?
On foot.
On foot, right. So Geshe-la founded a monastery. Is that where Geshe-la went as a novice? Was his monastery an hour and a half from his house?
Lamri Tamba.
No. Yes, he founded a monastery.
Lamri Tamba founded the monastery.
Right. An hour and a half from.
Hour and a half from his place. Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah,
did Geshe-la go to that monastery?
yeah, that was his first.
That's what I was
visit of
trying
his
to,
monastery.
that's what clicked in.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure that that
This
was
is in his life, the first monastery that he visited was the Lamri Tamba's monastery.
right.
And the first Buddha's image that he has seen was in that monastery. That's what he said.
So at what age did you go to the monastery?
제가 공부 과정에서 기술한 다음에 공부 좀 통화에 물어봐. 공부 대표를 가면 제가 공부 과정에 했어요.
비지로 준비죠 지진이래.
Oh, this Baba says that he's in his teenage.
In what?
He's teenager. He already became a teenager.
다분 자가를 용다 기두고 그날 저체라 그러야 로미시 담배로야 나라서 공부지였어. 어디나 저체했어.
So after then he went to a monastery. Before he came to India,
Right.
he went to monastery. He joined a monastery
In
back in his own
Exactly.
hometown. And
Okay.
became a monk for a couple of years, and then he ventured himself to India.
Okay. Very nice, thank you.
Who was Geshe-la's teacher?
Who was his root teacher?
겔라이 사회담을 수했습니다.
따뜻한 나도 정말 집에 지켜야겠다. 경고를 보세요. 저러면 이해야 돼. 네, 나 거기 고변나다. 나나 다 부고야 미소도 속에 부고를 믿길라게 좀 같은 지기 계시니 숨이었어.
My main root teacher is His Holiness Dalai Lama, and Then there are 3 more very important teachers at the monastery who actually gave me these teachings, who actually make me as a human being, he said, who made me a human being. There's 3 of them at the monastery.
Well, not a question, but a comment. So Langri Tangpa did not smile except 3 times, but it seems to me that maybe he was missing something because you smile all the time, and so does the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama loves to laugh. And so it seems to me that you must be able to train your mind and still laugh and be happy.
그런 뜻으로
음.
이슬람담바
개무시라시라고 말했어.
재미셔야 다 간다 담스모도 구신나게 담스모도 재미셔 정말 여러 그래서 말이야다 먼저 대자야
근데
군대야 세면에 군대 뒤에 이 재미셔지 간대면 재미셔 아니 기타 다와 재미셔지 그렇지만 좀더 되면 나지 그런 거래 아니 아직 내면에 게 이제 다시
친구를 봤어.
좀더 되게 위험하게 걸어봐서 이제 되게
탑파쇼기 뒤져보면 그러다 계실랑간 법에 나는 냠는 짠짠한 것만 도지기 또 그런 걸로 되지만 도지기 치료를 시라 들이 콩 수습 공부에 이런 것만 도지기다 지 들이 파즈 페들이 시라는 게 영어라 그런 전주서 보내 그냥 유진 개발이 그러고 근데 다 사자가서 하려 빌리자 말이야 아니 다르다 파 밀려야 시리 배준단 나게 찾을수 있게 되는 파 시리 중다 쉬지 때나기도 다 내서다 다가서다
While smiling, I constantly smile, but it is meaningless. There's no meaning to it. But His Holiness, when he is completely different. Unlike Kishilam Thampa, His Holiness, after his exile to India, he has been visiting many different countries, meeting a lot of people. And in a common people, the smiling is very important. Smiling should be given. Whereas Kishilam Thampa is not known to go much, go outside of his monastery. It's only he focuses only in his disciples. His teaching that's given is only the teaching that he had given is only selective. So therefore, the somber demeanor may be more suitable for his disciples to be trained. The somber demeanor that he had was not that he's obsessive of his own suffering. It's just overwhelmed by his suffering. It's not that at all. Whenever he gave the teachings, he talks about the suffering of other beings, focusing more on the suffering of other beings. And this is to demonstrate that how he actually care about the suffering of other sentient beings to his disciples and his close disciples.
Well, for our sake, I'm glad that you smile.
나라도 다 상로 가서 그래. 나라도 정말 상로 집안에서 와. 아니 가고 싶나 게뭐 쉬어줘줘. 야또 정말보다 괜히 쉬어줘줘. 나라도 쌤들 지고 키우면 따디 나라도 그러니. 미또 지금 와다가 남산 마세요. 야 미또 저러 나마다 난서 남산 가야 돼. 나라도 나로를 지고 키우면 치료를 하고 가봐야 키워야 돼. 따디기.
But my smile, it can be changed in instant. If someone talks bad about me, if someone says something, offensive to me, then that smile will be vanished, and there will be a different demeanor. You will see that. So this is not those beings who will always remain as it is, and there's no change at all. But like us, we are ordinary beings. When we were so happy, we laugh, we smile. But even one word of offensive word will change our entire mind and change ourselves. And this is what is happening to us. It is for this purpose we are discussing on this teachings of the 8 verses of 10 Mark.
It's just a definition, okay? So the third time he laughed, it says that the stone, the heavy rock, was the head of a sleeping OGRE. Ogre.
Older.
Yeah, that it wasn't a rock, it says, sleeping head of an ogre. What?
Where does it say that?
Study Buddhism,
Oh,
it had the other, I was interested because it was.
所以其实那在北讲的六月的在讲的电名色的呢，
아네.
你在人的结不都叫了哇，结不也都也，那么都你的文件是的，这结不都的，东文那边的少数学习是不管，
소자.
少数情况的
아네.
的中国的明白的少数学习中国说的去，
아네.
对不对？
아네.
程度上。
아니, 이 공시문 쉬어야 되나요? 어디 다 루기 도지 뭐지? 아니 도지 메팅부 도지 용도. 메팅부 도지 용도 안데 이 세계를 있어요.
It may be, but if you look at the actual background, the background of the Kisilandamba, there are several of the backgrounds, and there are some, it is a different, story
Right.
and explanation to that.
Just different translation.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not different translation, even the background itself, the story of Kisilandamba, it's not one story, it's a story written by different disciples and different people, so it differs.
조정아.
So we should say the dedication prayers, beginning on page 23 and 24, continuing with auspicious wishes on page 28.
Canada sungu
On page 28.
Thank you.